Fellas, AC here, welcome to another video. Creed, everybody's favorite Creed, has been sold last week or maybe 2 weeks ago. So I thought I'll do a little technical talk, if you like, a little talk about my views on why Creed was sold, what the deal is, what lies in future, just a little bit of blue sky thinking. And I just want to trigger off a debate. I know there are a lot of supporters of Creed. Some people are indifferent. I just wanted to do an interactive video. See what you think. So, what's the deal? So the deal is that Creed will maintain its entire executive team. Yeah. So Creed, as you all know, is a family-run business. It's been in existence for more than 250 years. At the moment, it was being run by father and son duo. I think Olivia Creed, and the other one's name is Erwin Creed. And it's basically a family-run business, but of 250 plus years. But Creed has been manufacturing general fragrances for all, since only 1970. So it's pretty young fragrance house, if you like. And you can imagine taking a family-run business that was furbishing request from the royal family only, and then they move into a commercial playground and they sustain that business for what, 50 years? And you can see the challenges. These organizations, these companies are born out of one person creating some fragrances, and they're all handmade, very exquisite. And then you can imagine the challenges, the various types of challenges that these houses might have encountered. So this deal is all about, in my view, that keeping the soul of Creed alive, but finding somebody to finance, to manage, to bring in the best practices, and that sort of thing. It's more of a cash injection, if you like. That's my view. So who are the buyers? So there are two buyers. One is Blackrock private equity firm. The unit which has bought it is called LTPC, Long-Term Private Capital. So Blackrock Long-Term Private Capital, along with another businessman. I can't remember his full name. I think it's Javier, and he's the chairman of, he's going to be the chairman. He's also a person who's got huge interest in Dago. Now, Dago is a brand. So let me talk about these two brands, yeah? So let's talk about Dago first. So Dago is a household name. Think of any beverage, alcoholic beverage. Dago owns it. Now, here is a list of brands that Dago owns. So they are into alcoholic beverages, FMCG, yeah? Fast-moving consumer goods. The other one, Blackrock. Now, this is an interesting one. Blackrock is basically a private equities firm which has grown absolutely phenomenally since 2008. Now, the total market capitalization of Blackrock at the moment, just a quick search on the internet will give you a number, and then that number is phenomenal, 4.3 trillion US dollars. Think about how many countries' GDP is actually equal to more than 4.3 trillion dollars. That's the size of Blackrock. Now, this is a division of Blackrock. So I imagine these two organizations will bring in not only the cash injection that supposedly Creed is looking at, but also, can you imagine the reach these organizations have? Plus, can you also imagine the best practices of an FMCG, like Dago, coming in to Creed and help them streamline their supply chain? I think Creed has massive supply chain issues. Look at the batch variations, We all love to talk about Aventus and its batch variations. Why do you think they exist? I think they have great difficulty in maintaining the quality with which they make a certain batch. And that's why they have these huge issues. They can't sustainably keep on sourcing the same ingredients, and hence they have batch variations. So they have major supply chain issues. So Dago, which again is a master, I suppose, in this, is going to bring in that sort of best practice, if you like, of creating beverages and distributing them all over the world. Can you imagine how streamlined their sort of supply chain would be? The other side of the story is Blackrock. Now, private equity firms, what do they have? Reach. So imagine Creed getting the exposure that it probably could have with inclusion of a massive name like BlackRock. And BlackRock deals with very wealthy people. So you can imagine the exposure Creed is going to get from that. So that's the deal. Now, I want to put into perspective the size of Creed. Whenever we talk about deal, I don't know the financials, but here is the size. Now, Creed's business, just a quick Google, is really tiny. 270 odd million. I don't know when this data is from, so it could be a stale and perishable data, but it can't be very different, right? So 270 million is their revenue, yeah, before profit. Their profit is about 12%, which I find hard to believe. You can't have 12% profit from such a niche brand, but probably is. I do not know. I'll take it with a pinch of salt, but this is the data I received from the internet. Quick Google, didn't verify the data. Now, Creed exemplifies what I like to see as Veblen's law. Now, or Veblen's theory. Now, if this is jargon to you, what is Veblen's theory? Veblen's theory comes from the theory of conspicuous consumption. And what it means is that the higher the price of a good, the more likely the wealthy are going to go for it, because it's a status symbol. It's seen as a status symbol. So other examples I could give you is a Rolls Royce. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it's a massive status symbol. Rolex watches, again, big status symbol. So let's compare the size of Creed to the size of, let's say, Rolex watches or Rolex as a company. Now look at these numbers. Rolex total revenue is exceeding 4 billion. Yeah, so it's more than 20 times the size of Creed. Profit, roughly 30%. That's what I think the profits of Creed are. It should be like that. It's a consumer product. I can't see 12% profit from a consumer product. When you talk about profits from services industry, that's where it lies, 15, 20%. Sometimes it will be 50%, depends on what services did. I can't see Creed being a 12% profit business. But anyways, these are the numbers. So why did I show it to you? I just wanted to put into perspective the fact that Creed is a very, very small brand. And all these big names are vying for it. So why is it so? Why would a small brand of 270 million attract a massive name like BlackRock? Because of the value, the perceived value of Creed. So this is a win-win situation. Creed wants cash injection, Creed wants best practices, and somebody wants Creed. Why? Because this is a status symbol, and adding them to the repertoire of BlackRock would be amazing. And Dago, as I explained. So this is what I think the deal is. So what led to this? Why we are here? Why did Creed sell out? Now the thing, it didn't sell out, sorry. Why was it acquired? Now, one of the reasons could be cash injection, but this had to happen. There are a couple of reasons. One funny reason is obviously Jeremy sitting down with Irvin Creed and forcing him to smell office. And the moment he did that, I knew Creed, he was going to shut shop, I'm joking. But on a serious note, I think there are a couple of reasons. One is, it's very hard for a business like Creed to sustain after it's set a benchmark. Think about it this way. Before Aventus, Creed had some good brands, but it did not have the kind of exposure that Aventus did for Creed. Aventus created an absolute storm in the consumer market. Excuse me. Everybody from your Joe Blogs on the street to a person who's very well to do and earning 7-figure salary wants to have Creed in his collection. That's what Aventus in his collection. So that's what Aventus did for Creed. Now once you set that benchmark, once your revenue starts to increase, and Aventus is the biggest seller, there's no doubt about that. What do you do next? Now, and can you sustain that growth as a small cottage industry that you are? And they are a cottage industry. Everything is handmade. It's like handmade watches or handmade anything. How do you sustain it? So I think the path to this was set with the release of Aventus and the runaway success of Aventus. Now, I'm sure there's some of you who are extremely saddened by this. And there's some of you who are extremely delighted by this. And some of you who don't care. So the people, let's talk about these three groups of people. So people who are saddened by this. I'm pretty sure that some people are really sad about this. Why? Because they were delighted to own a brand made by a house which has been in existence for 260 years, or maybe even more, and has this sort of lineage in providing fragrances to the royal family. Some people take great pleasure in owning objects like that. So those are the people who would be extremely gutted. But they needn't worry because the creative team is intact. It's not going to go away. Now, there are some people who are completely indifferent to it. I fall in that category. And I'm doing this video dispassionately. I'll show you my Creed collection. All right. So my Creed collection is 2 decants. One is Royal Oud, which is what I'm wearing today. It's an absolutely stunning fragrance. And the other one is 2012 vintage Silver Mountain Water, 20 ml. These are 2 decants I own. And the only full bottle of Creed I own is this. Creed's Venezia. Absolutely stunning. No one talks about it. So when I spend big money, I want creative fragrances, luxurious fragrances, fragrances that last for a long time. And Creeds don't have a reputation for lasting on your skin for a long time. And that's the reason some people would be completely indifferent to it. And there's some people who are delighted because they can't stand Creed. Reason being, it's seen as a brand which really overcharges for fragrances that shouldn't be costing that much. And there's a little semblance of truth there. But remember Veblen's law, Veblen's theory. Some objects are deliberately priced to make them sought after, the snob value, if you like. So don't blame Creed. There's such a thing in existence. We live in a world of different shades, and that's one of those things. So what led to this is what I've explained. Now I'd like to talk about, sort of what to expect. Now these 2 brands I told you which I've acquired, they will bring in their management practices and their mindset. So what to expect? Number 1, when you're being acquired by a private equity firm, the most important thing to a private equity firm? Make the books look good. The accounting should be perfect, no wastage, because they have these very wealthy investors who need to be kept happy at all times. So you should expect extreme, fiscal discipline. So whatever wastage is there in Creed, whatever cost cutting that needs to be done, it will be done. There's no doubt. I know I'm speculating, but there's no doubt in my mind that will happen. The other side is the FMCG side, the booze company, the Dago. Dago is definitely going to pressurize Creed into making more and more flankers because, these companies see a consumer product as a consumer product. So the more variations you have of it, the more market opens up. Yeah. So don't be surprised if there's a new sub-brand which is created called Creed Light. I'll give you an example. Tom Ford has gone exactly the same route. And what does Tom Ford have? A private blend and a normal. Yeah. And sometimes they pick fragrances from the private blend line and shift it to the normal line, whatever it's called. So don't be surprised if you see something like that happening with Creed. I won't be surprised. So those are 2 things I'd like to see. Now, I expect to see. Now the next one is last subtopic, if you like. So is the future bright? Now, I think it is. It is going to be very bright. Why? Because as I said, Creed's biggest problem is its supply chain. And I won't be surprised if Creed in future go on to do some sort of a vertical integration. Now again, I'm throwing a jargon out here. So what is vertical integration? Vertical integration is basically a method or system by which a company goes on to deal or take into under its own control every moving part that goes into producing a product. I'll give you an example. Tesla. Tesla not only produces a car, it also owns the dealership that sells the car. It also owns the network of charging points and all the raw materials that are required to produce the car. That's called vertical integration. It's a complete ownership of that brand. Now, if you transpose that example onto Creed, Creed's biggest problem is batch variations. It's handmade batch variations. So I personally think this will be what Creed will do. They'll try and secure assured supply of raw materials from whatever from whatever regions of the earth and whatever means possible. This is what they will try and do. So when they achieve this, their brand, their products will be more reliable. At the moment, the biggest disappointment is that if you buy a bottle of Aventus, you do not know what Aventus you're going to get. And that leads to a lot of discontentment amongst its loyal customers. You're paying the same amount of money, but it's like a lottery at the moment. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get. Well, some bottles last 4 hours, the others last 8 hours. That vertical integration, to some extent, to a large extent, might solve that problem. And this is why I think Creed's future could be a bright one. That's one, just one. The other could be the exposure that Blackrock will bring because of its huge assets, that is the wealthy upper class. The third one, obviously, I talked about, and that is, the supply chain issues, streamlining the books, streamlining the production. I don't know whether handmade will still be a forte, a selling point of Creed. I do not know. Only time will tell, right? But these are the areas I think where Creed will bring in the improvements, and I think these will result in either creation of a sub-branch called Creed Light or whatever. But whatever the case is, Creed will become a bigger brand. From 270 million, I think it'll cross 1 billion or whatever in the next 4 or 5 years. It has to. Look at the parents. Those two parents are very, very big organizations, and they will actually put, sort of whatever emphasis is required for Creed to grow bigger. And there is benefit for everybody. If Creed grows big, if Creed produces more affordable line like Creed Light or whatever. I'm just speculating here, but this is what I can see, gazing into the crystal ball. So those are the points I wanted to make. I really would love to know what you think of them, and please share if you have great insights into the subject. Hope you like the video, fellas. Take care. Bye-bye.